Let's head on to the second topic. What did you want to talk about, Jordan?
Yeah, so mine is once again a pretty general topic that we'll narrow down as we get into it. But the title, at least, is Walkthroughs and Guides, and so I just want to talk about how each of us individually uses either walkthroughs or official strategy guides. Whether or not we use them, how we use them, what sites we go to, or what. Store we buy them from if we're getting the physical, whatever. But yeah, I'll go ahead and start out. For me, I've always loved walkthroughs and guides ever since I was a kid, and I figured out what they were. Going on game FAQs and looking at wikis and looking at walkthroughs. People basically, doing just that, walking you through step by step, showing you how to get through this game. Because I can remember before that, before the internet, before I was on the internet as a kid, like in elementary school and stuff, you just banging your head against these video games sometimes, trying to figure out the next thing to do, and usually it's not that hard, but you're just missing something small, and so you can't get through this archway or whatever the fuck it is, and it's just frustrating. And so I'm glad to have them, and now that I'm older and I've played plenty and beat plenty of video games, I'm, like I said before on the show, I'm not trying to prove anything to myself. I've gotten to the point where I don't want, when I'm playing a game, I don't want to get to the point where I'm not having fun, so I have to go get a walkthrough. I want to get a walkthrough before I get to that point so that I can keep having fun and the flow doesn't get broken. And so I definitely give myself some time, because I don't want to just think, oh, well, this, 2 seconds into this question, I've already given up on the answer, so I'm just going to go get a walkthrough. I definitely challenge myself and try to figure out everything on my own, but I'm just done banging my head against the brick wall, I guess. So for certain games, I've also talked about this. I'm kind of a big accessories guy, and my games are all digital. And so having something to physically commemorate my favorite games, like, say, The Witcher 3, for example. I like having the collector's edition strategy guide. I even like having the art book if they make one of those. And so having the Breath of the Wild collector's edition strategy guide, or Horizon Zero Dawn for special games that I really love. I like having that companion, and personally I like having the official strategy guide compared to walkthroughs, because usually the strategy guides, I feel, are the right amount of detail, the right amount of stats that I need, pictures next to everything, and since they are official, you're not going to get something where it was just some intern writing it and he kind of tells you how to get through it, but doesn't give you a proper explanation, and you have to go find somebody else's walkthrough, even though you've been using this walkthrough all the way up until this point through the game. So I do prefer official strategy guides for that reason. However, before I give up the floor, I just want to say I completely condemn the Bloodborne official strategy guide, because it is a terrible piece of garbage. It literally says, all right, now you're going to walk through here, do these things to get up to this boss. And when you're finished with that boss, you'll have these things to do, and then you'll get up to this next boss. And then after you finish that boss, oh yeah, you figured that out on your own, right? Because Bloodborne bosses aren't hard to figure out, are they? So yeah, the fucking strategy guide that you pay, $20 or $30 for just has no explanation on how to beat the Bloodborne bosses, which are clearly fucking terribly difficult. And
Which are the
explanation?
Which are the primary point of Souls games is the bosses. That's probably the one thing you would need. Strategy guide.
And I get the whole, oh well, that's not how Souls games work. It's all secretive, and you gotta communicate with people online and figure out how it goes. It's like, yeah, but if I'm specifically buying the guide,
exactly.
Yeah, I want the description of how to beat the fucking boss.
So the Souls things, and I'm finding this particularly with Salt and Sanctuary, there's so many different builds that you can make your character that, your boss strategy, and this isn't so much the case in Bloodborne, pretty much most people are playing pretty similarly, but in Salt and Sanctuary, you can be a 100% mage or all dexterity or all strength. Like, there's so many different and those, that's going to give you a completely different strategy for beating each boss, and you're forced into it in that game, because once you're invested into one skill tree, you have no way out of it, right? So that's not an excuse. Strategy guys should be able to give you some kind of pointers, but but back to the original point, though, I think it's fascinating that nowadays, buying the official printed strategy guides is pretty much you're not really buying them for the guide or the walkthrough, because if that were the case, you would just go to a website for free really quick, right? It's even faster. But it's cool to me that these guides stick around, these physical guides, just because they've become more along the lines of art books in some ways. At least the last one I bought was Dark Souls 2, that strategy guide, and it's super gorgeous. And also learn a lot about the lore of the game,
right?
And that's something that's a little more unique to Dark Souls, because it's super super confusing and dense, and so on. Yeah. So I think it's cool that those are still hanging around and people are still buying those, and there's a market for that, even though you would think they'd be irrelevant, right? With how many and how fast wikis go up for games.
Well, and
that's where my mind first went.
That goes back to my point about, I don't think that these free wikis are necessarily up to par, and so it is. Sure. If you're super into this game and it is a 60-hour RPG where at some point you're going to need a little help here or there, for me personally, I think, I'd rather just go ahead and get the official guide. So like I said, I don't have some intern who doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
Logan, you want to go next?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think about it here. Like, I honestly don't use them very much anymore. Yeah. Especially the official strategy guides or whatever. Like, the last one that I used for that in that capacity was with The Witcher 3, and it was just by pure happenstance because I purchased the game the week it came out, and the place I bought it had a promotion where I got a free copy of the strategy guide. So sure, I got a strategy guide out of that, and so I use that every now and then. Used it mainly more to keep track of my quests and things like that, more than actually figure out where to go from point A to point B.
Right.
I honestly don't use them though, unless there's a couple situations. If it's an older game that I'm unfamiliar with, I'll consult it every now and then. If it is an older adventure game like LucasArts or something like that, and I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, then in that situation I'll look to a walkthrough. Yeah. Besides that, the only other time I can really think of using a walkthrough or a guide of any sort would be with achievements or trophies, and I know that kind of probably falls into its own separate category almost.
A little bit.
But that's the only time I can really think of it, going out of my way to look up a specific way that something's done in a game or something like that. And in that situation, I usually go to YouTube as well.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, in that situation, I always use video walkthroughs because it's way easier. You get, show right where you're going, right where to pick up that collectible, and you're in and you're out. So shout out to PowerPix.
PowerPix is great.
Yeah, just awesome YouTube videos that are short, sweet, and to the point, and no bullshit commentary, which I don't like. So yeah.
You don't like commentary about video games?
Yeah, on my fucking... I see, everybody goes to YouTube for Let's Plays. I go to YouTube for gameplay footage and type in no commentary next to it.
So as far as walkthroughs and guides, I have an interesting thing. So I don't think I've ever used a walkthrough, looking up a wiki, unless it was for achievements or trophies or whatever.
Wow.
I've never used one.
What if I had to have gotten stuck in games, right?
No, I've gotten stuck once, and I'll get into the story. So the first ever strategy, I've only owned 2 strategy guides in my life. So the first strategy guide I ever owned was for Pokemon Blue. Got my Game Boy, got the strategy guide, got the game, right? Super excited, flipping through the pages.
That's a good example.
Loved it.
Right?
Little kid, you know what the hell you're doing, sneezing and vomiting.
Yeah, where the hell do you find 150 Pokemon and you want one particular one and you don't know where to find it in the whole world?
Exactly.
Yeah, see, that's my thing. There's a couple certain games that, like Witcher 3, Zelda Breath of the Wild. Personally, I don't know how I would have made it through those games without the guides, because there's so many random things, missable things. If you want this piece of armor, you got to be at this time during the day, blah, blah, blah. I just couldn't do it. So
well, there are certain, I'll say this too, and Breath of the Wild is a good example. There's certain games where I feel like you are playing it wrong if you are using a guide, and I think Breath of the Wild is the best example of that. Using a I specifically, there were so many times in that game where I was like, I want to just go look online and find out where this shrine is or where this is or find out where this is. And I never did. I made sure I specifically with that game never looked up any footage or looked up any walkthroughs or how-to gameplay. Certain games, especially the open world ones that are pushing you to explore, I really feel like I try to distance myself from the walkthroughs even more than normal. Like I said, it's typically not a huge problem for me to go out of my way, but yeah, the games where you explore a lot, like I try to make that experience as natural as possible because I know that's the way it was designed and intended to be played.
In those games, it's like I think the thing that gives me the most trouble is not the collectibles, but like the armor that you're trying to get, or like, you know, in Zelda you're trying to like piece together 3 pieces of armor for the set. In Witcher you're trying to get like the Witcher gear and get all the pieces of the Witcher sets put together, and I like those games so much that I want all the pieces and not just half of the set. So I guess that's where I get in the weeds.
But anyway, we just jumped down Jared. And
It's okay.
Jared, I'm sorry.
It's okay. So yeah, I had the Pokemon strategy guide. Then God of War 2 came out, and for some reason in that game, I got stuck on a specific puzzle. I don't remember what it was. Something to do with Minotaurs, which could be 50% of the game. So it was a puzzle, and I got stuck on it, and I sat there, and I got stuck on it, and I sat there, and I was trying to figure it for like 2 or 3 days. Coming back, getting out of school, coming back to it. How the hell do I solve this puzzle? I'm not going to let this puzzle beat me. I didn't have internet, right? At that time. I hadn't had internet for most of my childhood. So like I didn't know what to do. I went to my mom, was like, I can't figure this out. And she's like, well, don't they have a guide or something for it? And I was like, yeah, I guess I'll get a guide. I was kind of disappointed in myself. I was like, whatever. So I bought the Gears of War 2 guide. Gears of War 2. God of War 2.
Okay.
Jesus Christ.
I was for a second.
Really fucked up there,
yeah,
Jared.
I misspoke. Sorry. I do that a lot. So I got the God of War 2 strategy guide, used it. Like I said, it's the only time I've ever used a guide outside of Pokemon. I never look up walkthroughs unless I'm doing achievements. It's just not something I'm into. But for me now that I'm going more digital with all of my games, I do think it might be something when I have more expendable income of something I do purchase as something of like a commemorative thing. I do think strategy guides have become like the really well done ones are like pieces of video game history. I think they're really well done. I think they're really pretty. I think they paint a picture for the game that we don't see anymore. We don't have those weird manuals that come with games in the front where you like have the stories and stuff, you know? It's not a thing anymore. It's a waste of paper to people. So I
love in guides that you can always read the little backstory at the beginning, you know, or the character bios or whatever.
I think there's a reason they still exist, and I do think people still buy them because there's a lot of people who aren't as hardcore gamers and, you know, don't want to have a hard time with it, which is completely fine. But I do think there's a lot of people who are like, I love Breath of the Wild so much, I might not even use this guide, but it's good to know I have it and I can flip through it and check out the world.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
collectible.
Jared, I have a question for you. You say that's the only time you've been stuck in a video game?
Yeah. I'm not trying to like tell myself as some video game expert, but God of War 2 was the only time I was ever stuck in a video game to the point where it required a guide.
So is it just that our definitions of stuck are different to where... Because I just don't see any way... Like, that was like, you know, 10 plus years ago, and you just don't... You've never had a part where you're like, I don't know what the fuck to do for like maybe
not even
15,
Dark Souls?
20 minutes.
I think we've just learned that you're a baby, Jordan, and you give up too quickly.
God damn.
No,
that was hardcore.
Well, the thing is, like, yeah, I've been stuck like 15 to 20 minutes, but I'm just like, I'm going to figure this shit out. I love problem solving. I love problem solving. It's one of my favorite things to do.
So that's my thing is, like, if you were so you get to a new part in a game, and then it's saying, you know, you need to get this done to move on, and it takes you... 45 minutes to figure out. That doesn't count as stuck for you.
No, because I figure out the solution.
See, yeah, if I'm spending like 45 minutes or an hour to try to figure out a new waypoint or whatever, I am stuck at that point, and I'd much rather just check the walkthrough.
And I would much rather spend 40 minutes figuring it out myself. I don't know why. Yeah. I know it's not the most efficient use of time, but it's just the way it works for me, man.
Yeah, you gotta play games your way, you know. I just think for me, it's like I'd rather spend that time playing other games.
Oh yeah, exactly, and I think that's the beauty of it is like, it's strategy guides, I think, are one of those things that it's a tool that you can have as something to look at to enjoy the love of the game. You can use it as a tool itself. You could use it when you only need it. There's some people who have it open the entire time and like to look at it as they're going through the parts. That's the beauty of walkthroughs and guides, is like, it's up to you, whatever, different strokes for different folks. Whatever the extent or the lack of that you want to use a guide for or walkthrough, go ahead. No one's stopping you. You're not less of a gamer because you use a guide. Like,
right.
So I'm
a baby, but I'm not less of a gamer.
So recently I've been looking up, I can't remember the exact name of the website. It might just be PlayStationTrophies.org. It's the first hit that always comes up whenever you type in trophy guide for a game.
PlayStation Trophies.
Yeah, so I appreciate at the front of all those guides, they always say, you can do this in one playthrough, but you're going to get more out of the game if you just play naturally the first time and then come back.
Yeah.
It's going to take you longer because you have to do an extra playthrough to get to platinum, but you'll get more enjoyment out of the game if you just don't worry the first time. I appreciate when they give you that warning.
Right, yeah.
Now, in some games, it's like you really need to read what they're going to say or you're going to completely screw yourself over. But
fun Jared fact for you. The only games I will ever read the entire achievement list for before the game comes out, because I don't like to know the entire achievement list because a lot of times they spoil stuff. The only game I'll ever read the entire achievement list for is Madden every year. Because, like, what is it going to spoil for me? I don't care. Also,
the Patriots won.
The achievements are, like, based on, like, legacy score and a bunch of crap. But a lot of times in the achievements, you'll see, like, features that they're adding that you might not be familiar with, or, like, certain hints at stuff. So that's cool to know. But, like, yeah, I don't like looking at achievement guides either. It's kind of like a media blackout thing for me. Just because a lot of the times they spoil stuff, or like I'm a weirdo. We've talked about this with like trailers too. Like I have a hard time of watching a trailer, and then when I watch the movie, I remember, oh yeah, that was in the trailer. That was in the trailer. Same thing with like that stuff is like I'll point it out the moment I see it. You know what I mean? The achievements, or it's like chapter 1 and it's like a phrase relating to the game. It's like, oh, that's what the reference is to, and it kind of ruins it for me. So,
Jared, you just reminded me. Quick update. Earlier this year, I mentioned that I was greatly reducing the amount of trailers that I watched, just having seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which is fucking fantastic, and everyone should watch, especially Dom, who doesn't have taste because he thinks that Friends is better than Seinfeld. Sorry, that was a joke. There was a joke in there, even though I didn't really give you the tone of voice, but well, now I've just totally forgot what I was going to say because I went on the
Guardians.
Oh, yeah, Guardians. Yeah. So, the trailer thing. Sorry, I'm going on this fucking tangent. The trailer thing, it is worth it. I only watched one trailer for Guardians, and then, now this part's fucking crazy. Alien Covenant's coming on screen before trailers for Wonder Woman and shit, and I've got my eyes closed the whole fucking time because I'm trying not to get spoiled on these movies. But it is worth it because, like Jared said, you're not like, oh, well, that part was in the trailer, or you're not thinking, well, this movie's still got some time left because I haven't seen this part from the trailer or whatever. It is worth it. It is a more enjoyable experience. Sorry that took so long.